Hey guys, it's Amber from the Kinetic Canine, and today I am going to go over a little chart that I kind of came up with. It's called the Pyramid of Buildup, and what it is basically an informative sheet that kind of shows you the different aspects involved of basically your dog getting worse or becoming reactive, explosion, aggression, stuff like that. So, number one is going to be health. And when we look at health, we think of just a dog that feels well or has a clear bill of health through the vet. I mean, there's dogs who you don't know if they have a previous injury they might be favoring. Somebody did tell me a story about a dog who had impacted anal glands, and it actually caused dog reactivity because every time a dog went up to like sniff their butt, they would react because they were in pain. So obviously if your dog hasn't been to the vet in a while for their regular blood work, workup, and health exam and stuff like that, do that before you get into any major training program, just to rule that out, because just like people, dogs get a little cranky when they don't feel good too, and dogs are super good about hiding that they don't feel good. But really, if you look at a dog's diet, a lot of the dog food brands and stuff like that out there nowadays are actually owned by a lot of the candy companies. And if you look at the ingredients, they're just trash. Just like with people, if you look at overall gut health and overall quality of nutrition, just like people, dogs can kind of feel a little sluggish and shitty too. The second aspect of that is sleep deprivation. Believe it or not, a lot of dogs in this country are sleep deprived. Dogs can sleep up to 18 something hours a day. They need a lot of sleep, especially your puppies need a lot of sleep. And you're doing your dog a disservice by not having them properly crate trained. And what I mean by that is a dog who sees the crate as an area of relaxation. So they know that when they go in there, it's time to decompress and take a nap or sleep. You're not looking at a dog that goes in the crate and is scratching at it, whining, pacing back and forth, barking, and is overall panting and stressed. Dogs that sleep in the bed with you, you're looking at, I mean, you're tossing and turning, the dog's tossing and turning, everybody's moving. It's just not a good quality of sleep, and it's not so much that I don't recommend a dog sleeping with you because of some dominance theory or something like that. I just don't think it's a good practice for you or the dog. And I think that both of you would get a better quality of sleep if the dog had its own safe space and you had your own safe space to sleep. The third little aspect of health is going to be proper decompression time. What that means is place duration, downstays, long periods of time where your dog is asked to just relax and hang out. It actually brings me into lifestyle, people who over or under exercise their dog. You know, dogs that are running and swimming and you're throwing the ball for hours and oh, well, they have a yard to run in. You're more so building adrenaline in the dog and you're building an athlete. And those things are fine. You can do all of those things. Those things are like the fun outlet, right? But when you're looking at kind of like when you go to the gym, it's like when you first start, you're lucky if you can do 20 minutes. But eventually, you know, it's like, okay, you can do 30 minutes, you can do an hour. Some people are there for 2 hours. People that are super into it are there forever. I worked at a gym. Some people just don't go home. But it's like you're almost building that endurance for your dog to tolerate more. And then what happens when you have a day where you can't exercise your dog? They're going batshit, like whining and pacing, and they want to go out and they want to chase the ball. It's like you're building an addict. And those things are fine in moderation. But I'd rather for a family pet that most people want to work on your obedience, but most importantly, building in duration to that obedience. So think of it like meditation, right? At first you're sitting there with your thoughts and you're like, shit, did I remember to go to the bank? Did I turn off the stove? Like, do I need to pick up the kids today? It's like your mind doesn't turn off, but the longer you practice, the more you can just sit down, breathe, and relax. And that's kind of what I'm looking for in your dog. Regulate that nervous system. Let them feel what it feels like to just be calm and hang out with you, which is going to be in your favor when you have guests over, when you go out in public or you want to go to a cafe that's like pet friendly and you sit down and you just want your dog to lay down. And it's going to make them mentally feel better too, just like with you. You're also looking into your social interactions. As a dog ages, it is 100% normal for them to age out of daycares and age out of that social butterfly period. So puppies love to play with everybody. But as they get older, they're more selective and they might play with a dog for a couple minutes and then go on their merry way doing what they want to do, sniffing around, peeing on stuff. So it's actually 100% normal for dogs to do that. Dogs that are true social butterflies and love everything are few and far between. You kind of have that spectrum of dogs who really don't like other dogs. Maybe they have a group of 1 or 2 dogs they'll play with. And then there's like the normal spectrum of, I'm selective, I don't like you, I'll play with you, you could give a shit about, let's do some stuff, okay, I'm bored. And then there's the dogs that are like, I just met you and I love you and let's play for hours and I'll annoy the crap out of you. So the third one is going to be inconsistency. Nobody does this out of spite, nobody does this on purpose, but people in general are just very inconsistent with their dogs in day-to-day lives. It's normal, but it's something we got to be more aware of. You look at it from the dog's perspective, they don't really know what your expectations are, because sometimes you follow through with this, but then other times you're just not in the mood to have the fight, so you let it go. Sometimes the dog has to sit and stay there, but then other times you're just like, oh, you wandered away, like I wasn't paying attention. You really want to make clear rules and boundaries and stick to them. Dog training is a lifestyle. You do it every single day for the entire duration of how long you own the dog. And the biggest thing you can give your dog is consistency, following through, being very clear with your rules and your boundaries and your affection, and just having a predictable routine that the dog can follow day to day and knows what's coming. They love routine and they love black and white. Yes, no. If you look at a dog in the yard and you tell them to come, it's like, I don't really feel like it today. Maybe I will today. Yeah, sure, I'll come back in because I need breakfast. The dog learns they can ignore the command means nothing. Oh, well, they know it. They just don't want to. But that also becomes very confusing, because then when you need the obedience, you're trying to hold your dog accountable when you haven't before, especially in public, and they get frustrated. It's kind of like you can't expect them to behave in public and be very consistent in public when you're not home, because home is that base of everything. A lot of leash reactivity can stem from just little brownie points that you can kind of clean up at home, which brings me into frustration. So when you think of frustration, you think of a dog that is on the other side of a fence, maybe they fence fight. Some dogs are completely social, but they're reactive on the leash. And that's because the leash is more seen as a restraint. They can't get to that dog and they're pulling back, and it's like holding a dude back in a bar fight. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Don't go for him. It's like, well, I want to get to him, man. So basically you have to have the dog see the leash as a communication tool and not just this piece of nylon is here to keep you here. Otherwise, see a sucker taking off doing whatever they want. The last and final tier of my pyramid is going to be the actual explosion, the things that owners notice the most, which is going to be aggression, reactivity towards guests, people out on the walk, other dogs, things outside the front window, the mailman, those things that really set your dog off, or I guess could be considered triggers. Some of it too is you may not have seen the beginning stages of the buildup of the actual behavior. And it's not until the dog's last straw, so to say, doing a lot of air quotes, the last straw, that you'll actually see the explosion. You're like, whoa, they've never done that before. If you kind of sit down and look back, you'll see these little puzzle pieces of buildup that eventually it's like your dog reaches his last straw. He's frustrated, he's sleep deprived, he's on a shitty diet, he has no rules and boundaries, and if he does, they're inconsistent. So you can kind of see where it's like, I've had enough. I've just freaking had enough. What do you want? It's like that movie. What do you want? I don't know. It's not that easy. What do you want? I don't know. And actually, sometimes you're doing everything right. But it's the actual fact that's like, oh, my dog's great. I have no problems. But that's because there's never been any problems. There's never been any conflict. So it's like sometimes you'll start a training program and you'll hold the dog accountable and you'll start asking for more. And it's like, if you had a kid that grew up and they reached a teenager and they've never done chores before, and you're like, you're going to do the dishes and you're going to do your laundry and you're going to clean your room and you're going to cook your own dinner, and it's like, they're going to be like, fuck you. Like, no, like they've never had to before, and you're going to get that pushback. So there's some dogs like I'll take in as a board and train, and I'll start holding the dog accountable and being like, hey, no, like sit, I told you to sit, like we're going to do this routine. And the dog's never not been like pushed somebody over before, like taken the mile when given an inch, and they'll lash out. And like I've had dogs where the owner's like, no, my dog's never tried to bite anybody. My dog's super friendly. And all I do is just hold the dog accountable and tell them they can't get up from a sit, not even correction based, and the dogs will go after me because they're just like, no, I don't do this. This isn't what I do. Like, you, lady, need to get on the same page as me, because me and my owners, we don't do this. You don't tell me what to do, and I'm not held accountable. So sometimes actually doing the right thing by holding your dog accountable in the beginning can be what makes the dog look worse. So when people say like adversive tools, for example, like, oh my God, my dog's getting worse. It's like sometimes they do. They need that like fizzle out explosion. They need to just get it out of their system. It's just kind of like a tantrum where they're like, okay, well, are you really going to follow through? Or can I just explode and bark and act like an idiot and try to bite or whatever, and you're going to stop because you think it's getting worse? But if you push through that crap, the dog finally goes, oh, well, this is the new routine, so I don't want to waste any more energy fighting this. They're just laying down in the middle of Walmart and like a toddler and kicking their feet and screaming. And the second you give in and buy them the candy to shut them up because you're embarrassed, they're like, ha ha ha, sucker. Dogs can be the same. They're opportunists. They don't really want to do what they don't want to do. And if you don't follow through, oh God, they'll take advantage of that. They'll take advantage of that. If you could take one piece of information from this whole ramble, it would be consistent. I don't care if your obedience is sloppy as hell. I don't care if your expectations are minimal. If you're gonna ask your dog to do a certain thing, follow through. Be so clear about it. Not angry, not yelling, completely neutral, and let your tools, your body language, stuff like that do the talking for you. And no matter how long it takes, follow through. So thank you so much for listening to my little pyramid that's not really a pyramid tangent. I hope that you guys get some type of clarity from this, because I feel like when you look at behavioral issues, you just look at behavior issues. You don't look at the little things that could be causing it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you guys have a great night.